What's going on? Merry Christmas, Broncos country, and we're coming through with a huge victory video about an hour or so removed as the Denver Broncos are successful in getting the season sweep on the Kansas City Chiefs 20 to 13, and of course it was a lot closer than I think we were expecting or even wanting it to be, but nonetheless, it just seems as though the Broncos are just really good about finding ways to just do enough to win. Of course, the defense is certainly good enough to where they definitely get the stops needed to actually give the offense the opportunity to either tie or even perhaps take the lead in the game. And that was certainly the case here tonight out in Kansas City. I mean, I feel like just given the circumstances, third string quarterback, I would like to think there would have been a little bit more distance between the two sides, but I guess you can't be too picky about it. But we'll just jump right into things. And really, what I want to talk about here to start is the absence of Luke Wattenberg, which I didn't realize he had actually been placed on IR with a shoulder injury, and that's certainly huge to say the very least, especially after a new deal that he'd gotten earlier in the year, and certainly a well-deserved one. But never fear, of course, we've got Alex Forsyth actually filling the void, and I gotta say, he actually did a pretty damn good job tonight, considering I don't feel like the drop off was all that great. He seems to have exercised all the demons from last year after allowing that late go ahead field goal to end up getting blocked out in Kansas City, no less. But of course, that just makes it all the better for Denver to come away with the sweep. It was with him actually playing at center, and he actually, again, did a really good job and probably a lot better than what I would have expected because it just was a little bit surprising to find out right before the game that Wattenberg was out, much less even on IR, because he had actually been really good and had stayed pretty healthy throughout the season, and now that's no longer the case. We'll see how long he's out. Maybe we'll be able to get him back in time for the Super Bowl, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't mind working with Alex Forsyth in the meantime, as long as he continues to perform the way he did tonight. I'm definitely here for it, and especially because of the fact that Spagnola and the Chiefs definitely didn't let up too much defensively. That being said, speaking of defense, we got to talk about the Denver defense, and specifically Jonah Ellis and Dondre Tillman, who actually combined for the Broncos' only sack tonight, which is really, really wild to think about. I gotta say, this Oladokun kid actually, or this Oladokun did, I I'm not even sure if I'm ever going to be able to say that name right, but I gotta say he actually didn't do too bad considering. He wasn't actually doing anything overly great. The only touchdown they actually managed was simply due to a Bo Nix mistake where he threw an interception towards the end of the first quarter, and of course that gave the Chiefs really good field position, and it just would have been impossible for anyone to not capitalize on that. And capitalize they did, and very well at that, as Lodakun actually found Breland Smith for I think it was a 5 yard touchdown, 6 yard touchdown, but either way, that was really all they were able to do outside of a couple of field goals after that. And if nothing else, to think that these two would combine for the only sack of the game. If that's something that you would have told me before the game started, I would have thought you were crazy. But it just ended up working out that way, and it is what it is. Hopefully, this is just something to where they're able to continue to fine tune what they're doing And it'll be huge, especially going into finale week with the Chargers, which, again, I feel like I suspect that one's going to be a Sunday night football matchup, but we'll see. Definitely going to have eyes this Saturday on the matchup out in Houston between the Chargers and the Houston Texans. With that in mind, we got to talk about what might actually wind up becoming a dynamic duo at quarterback and running back, and that's Bo Nix and R.J. Harvey. I mean, both were actually pretty damn good in the run game tonight. Of course, R.J. had, from what I saw, 14 carries for about 48 yards, and of course, Bo Nix actually running in for a touchdown of his own, but ultimately finding R.J. late in the last 2 minutes for the go-ahead touchdown, where, of course, Chiefs, using all their timeouts, left themselves about a minute and I think it was 45. It might have been a little less than that. Um, yeah, actually, it was a minute 45 because there wasn't a return as the ball did land in the end zone. And, of course, that drive started on a 35. And the alarming thing, well, I guess I really shouldn't say it was alarming, but it was just really not all that enjoyable to see the defense kind of allowing Kansas City to move the ball as effectively as they did. They were really good running the ball early, especially with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. And, of course, using, again, Breland Smith out of the backfield as a receiver. And all of that aside, I just would like to think, again, for the fact that they were down to their third string quarterback, and they were actually missing a couple of key receivers in Rashee Rice and Tyquan Thornton, who were actually questionable going into the game, and as it turns out, neither of them played tonight. So you would have figured that, coupled with the fact that, again, third string quarterback, there would have been a little bit more distance between the two sides, but it ended up working out well in the long run. And of course, these two came together for a fantastic play in the go-ahead moments when they really needed to, and then of course the defense took care of it from there. But I feel as if, again, it's just a matter of the Broncos literally just doing enough to win the games, and a lot of championship teams have actually been able to do that. And oddly enough, a lot of people have actually been crapping on Bo for a lot of, I guess you could say, some so-called shortcomings that have befallen the Broncos offense throughout the season, but the reality is that he's definitely improved since then. And really, the brighter side of what we got out of the performance the offense had tonight is the fact that they actually controlled the clock for a majority of the game the way that they have. And really a lot of the more recent matchups outside of maybe Washington and, of course, Jacksonville this past Sunday. But really and truly, I feel like this was definitely a good win. Certainly great to see Chiefs actually get swept for the first time in quite some time. I meant to look that up. I forgot to get that information, but maybe I'll come through with that in the video that I do for tomorrow. But in the meantime, let me know what y'all think. Did y'all enjoy the performance? I mean, I think it could have worked a little bit better, but I certainly am going to remain confident, especially going into finale week, which, again, I'm kind of counting on that probably being Sunday Night Football. And also another thing to think about, 10 years ago, it was literally the same thing. Season finale, Chargers came into town. We're getting it again 10 years later. The similarities keep lining up. I don't know what it is. Let me know what y'all think down below. In the meantime, between time, I'm A and J, and I appreciate your time that you've been spending with me here.